Viewers and subscribers, Merry Christmas and welcome back to Beating the Press podcast. Now, coming up in this evening's podcast, we're going to be looking back, reviewing the big results which took place in the EPL over the weekend, the last weekend before Christmas. And of course, joining me this evening to review these matches and to talk some EPL football, we have returning to the podcast, Christoph.
Good to be back, viewers.
Yes, indeed, Christoph. Merry Christmas. Indeed, hope you're enjoying the festive period. But we're gonna kick things off, Christoph, and the first match we have on the agenda, we cannot start anywhere else except over there at Spurs. Liverpool running out big winners. 6-3 over Tottenham. Talk to us about that match, Christoph. What did you see from either team? And can Liverpool lift the title? That is the big question at this point in time.
I mean, at the moment, Liverpool can lift the title. Yeah, they are what 6 points clear with a game in hand. Chelsea failed to win their game to keep up. Arsenal did win their game, but they have fallen off somewhat. But still a lot of football to be played, so it still remains to be seen. But yeah, Liverpool, in theory, be winning the title. But again, a lot of football to be played.
Well,
If we go to the Spurs game, Spurs
yeah,
versus Liverpool.
the Spurs game. I mean, Liverpool, I would say easy win. I don't think Liverpool was really tested in that game. I am just concerned again. I spoke about it before, the defensive fragilities with Kanate missing from the team, and we saw that again. Yes, easy, comfortable win, 6-3, but still giving up 3 goals in a game of this nature. In the preview show, I spoke about Liverpool outscoring Spurs. And that was the case in this fixture. It was Liverpool scoring six, Spurs scoring three. So at no point in time was I expecting really a defensive show, but I am still concerned, Christoph, about the defensive lapses taking place in this team since the injury to Konate. And I don't think this Liverpool team can take any other defensive injuries in all honesty, especially a man such as Virgil van Dijk. To me, if Van Dijk was to go down injured, that's curtains for the Liverpool season.
Well, that is something I said to you earlier in the season, and you said that was not the case. So,
Well,
um,
that at that point in time,
we'll see.
Kanate was still fit, but Kanate now injured. You can't have your first choice centre backs out injured and expect to really compete at this high level. And we saw that from the Spurs game. Spurs was missing their first choice, you could say, defensive unit, and 6 goal went past them. Not to say that would have made the result different, but it could have had an impact. One cannot know at this point in time. We can only go by the reality we
in
see in front of us.
in my opinion, that Spurs game was a bit deceptive. Looking at the scoreline, it's very deceptive because if you didn't watch it, you would think it was an attacking masterclass from Liverpool. But
Well, it
uh,
was.
in my opinion, it was a case
The
of
25 chances were created,
it
Christoph, when you
was
check the
a it
statistics.
was a tale of poor defending at both ends, in my opinion.
Well, the
In
attacking prowess of both teams obviously led to errors. That is what I would say. But again, as I said,
I
I
don't
was not
I
really
don't think
expecting a
the
defensive showpiece.
I don't think the attacking prowess of any team
Yeah,
showed up any
when a
other
team
team. It
create
was
25 chances in a game, Christoph,
it
Liverpool
it
created
was
25
it
chances.
was simply horrible defending by Spurs. Clearly they can't
Well,
defend
for
anything.
sure. I mean, definitely, definitely. But it was
Horrible,
two
horrible,
attacking teams going at it.
horrible defending on both team in both cases. Every goal that Liverpool scored was down to poor defending. Every goal that
But isn't
Spurs
that how
scored was
goals in
down to
general are scored, Christoph? Due
down to poor
to,
defending.
right, and errors from maybe individual players
That is
and
that is
or
that
the
is
team.
that is one method of goal scoring, but not the only method of goal scoring.
Well, I mean, it was a free flowing game. I mean, to me, this was probably has been the best game of the EPL season thus far, especially if you were a neutral watching this game. It
Perhaps
was
to a
end-to-end
neutral. Yeah,
stuff.
that's what I was going to say. Perhaps to a neutral, but
Yeah, for
honestly,
sure, for a neutral. And I
yeah,
mean,
but in another point of view, it is also one of the worst games in the EPL so far.
not
Worst
at all.
defensive displays in this season.
Yes, but again, that's what I'm saying. Going into the game this is exactly what I expected. To be honest, the score surprised me in terms of Liverpool scoring six, but I was expecting a high scoring open game. I did not expect either team to come out with any great defensive showing, which is why I had mentioned in the previous show that Liverpool has to outscore Spurs, in order to win the game, because I know Spurs is gonna come with their attacking way of playing. That is the one way that Pochettino have been implementing all season. He has not changed regardless of the opponent. He is taking the game to teams. But again, with the defensive pieces missing from his team, he is at a serious disadvantage. And with the attacking players that Liverpool has on display and the sort of form that the team in general is in, I expected Liverpool to score goals. It was just a case, again, as I said, outscoring Spurs, which they did quite comfortably. Granted, Spurs did get three, but at no point in time was Liverpool ever threatened or looking as if they would have lost the game. It was Liverpool from start to finish, in all honesty. Even though at times Spurs got a little hope from the goals being scored. And of course, their best player on the field was Kulusevski. Brilliant player. He's probably the only player from Spurs at this point in time who could possibly make their way into a Liverpool team, in all honesty, Christoph. You're,
Um, I
yeah.
don't quite agree with your assessment, but
Well, I mean, the floor is open. Share your opinions. Our viewers and subscribers are looking forward to what you saw from your perspective. That's how I saw it. I mean, I saw this as a fairly easy game for Liverpool. At no point were they really under threat of losing the game. And
I agree that Liverpool would feel that it was a fairly easy game for them, especially because of the manner in which Spurs basically capitulated in this game. The extremely poor defending, as I said, because the first three Liverpool goals, again, I said, were preventable had there been some quality defending. I mean, Salah scored two tap-ins, you know.
yeah, but
Is matter of fact, almost all the Liverpool goals were tap-ins. The crosses for those first two headers, excellent in my opinion. Everything else, utterly abysmal defending from Spurs. Postecoglou needs to have a word with his team. He probably needs to go back and build from the back again, because regardless of how good you're attacking, if you're going to be conceding more than you're scoring, there's no point.
well, for sure, for sure. But again, in defense of Pochettino, he does not have the personnels available. That is the problem.
Uh,
His two first choice center
Janu
backs are out,
January is
which
a few days
is
away.
Van der Veen and Romero, World Cup winner Romero.
The transfer
Then
market will be open in a couple of days.
right. So that's a possibility, but at the same time, sometimes you have to sell before you can buy. So he definitely need to do an introspection of the team when the window opens for sure, and see if bringing in some quality pieces could stop the sort of defensive fragilities which Spurs is currently displaying. But right now, Liverpool is a unstoppable force, Christoph, in all honesty. Very few teams would play against Liverpool and get a win. I mean, Liverpool has lost one game in all competition from the start of the season to this point, and that game was against Forest at home. So this is a team which is firing on all cylinders, and with a man like Mohamed Salah in such form, it's hard to see which team will stop Liverpool. Of course, every team go through their spell. For example, Man City is going through their spell right now, but it is what it is. You have to play and beat what is placed in front of you. And of course, speaking of Manchester and Man City, we segue over to Manchester United, Christoph. This game I called from the previous show. I expected Bournemouth to win this game, and so said, so done. Bournemouth running away 3-0 winners. Talk to us about that game, Christoph. Has the new coach shine wear off already?
Yes, yes, definitely, but also. Man United simply have one of the worst goalkeepers in the league. It is a poor goalkeeping display. I mean, if Man United were sensible, they would call David De Gea over in where is he at Fiorentina, call him and ask him if he wants his job back, and probably beg him to come back, because
Well, was
that
there
should be the
any key defensive errors by the goalkeeper in this one?
The- No, just poor goaltending in general. It wasn't some big mistake or anything like that. But had there been a quality keeper in the goal, they would have been saved, in my opinion. Had it been De Gea, they would have been saved. So,
Mm,
I think that should be the top of Amarin's transfer wish list, a goalkeeper. Very first signing, that is what it should be, a goalkeeper.
oh, ball call there. I mean, I didn't really see any outstanding errors from Onana, in all honesty. I just thought it was quality goals being taken by Bournemouth, in all honesty. I mean, but I mean, Manchester United, being Manchester United of late, this is what we have come to know Manchester United as, in all honesty. And it's obvious at this point in time that the players are just not good enough, and Amarin has to do some transfer business in order to get his type of players in and get rid of those players that obviously is not going to be part of the project going forward. I mean, you look at a team like Arsenal, for example, Christoph. Arteta is now in 5 years in the job. He has won one trophy. But when you look at the players in and around the team now, only one player remain from when he first came into the job, and that's Kieran Tierney, who really isn't seeing much game time or isn't part of the core Arsenal team. So it's gonna take some time for Manchester United under this coach, if given the time, to really formulate his own team. And I think he should be given the time this time around, regardless of how the results are going. Once you are seeing a project coming together, then he should be afforded the opportunity to see it through. I mean, Manchester United is definitely not going to get success overnight. We've seen them try that methodology and it has failed and it has become a cycle. So to me, you have to give Amarin the time, the resources, the support in order to fund this project. And once you're seeing evidence of that project coming together, then he should be fully supported going forward. But from a result point of view, these are going to be some of the results you're going to get from United throughout the rest of the season. You're going to get some indifferent results. However, what you want to see is progression. You want to see players who are taking charge and making a position their own, so to speak. And so far, I mean, only a handful of players I think will be in the score of this team going forward. What says you? Who are the current players you will be looking to work with going forward, Christoph, in under Amarin and under this particular system of play?
Honestly, in my opinion, probably just a couple of the youngsters, Garnacha, Armand, I would even ship out Bruno Fernandes, to
You
be
would
honest.
ship out Bruno Fernandes, but he has been Manchester's best player over the last four,
Indeed, he
five
has been
years.
Manchester United's best player for since his arrival. The problem with Bruno Fernandes is the petulant behavior that you have seen over the
But
years
he's
from him.
producing on the field, Christoph, regardless of the petulant behavior. Maybe
Regardless
take
of
the
the
captaincy away
yeah,
from
but
him then.
you don't want to have a player who is going to be very influential and then disrupt the manager's control over the team. So it's better to ship him out, cash in, no, while you can get money
So
for him,
possibly
use
a
that money.
similar type player such as Aubameyang, for example, or a Ozil, for
Right,
example.
Arsenal shipped out all the disruptive figures, Ozil,
But I'm not.
Aubameyang.
But it seemed like Amaran is shaking up the ship by seemingly shipping out Rashford. So maybe it's a case where Rashford is that disruptive figure and not necessarily Fernandez. I see
Well,
Fernandez doing well under Amarin. I mean, both are Portuguese. Fernandez do have the quality and could play in that number 10 role as well.
I mean, that's fine, but I mean, Amarin was also the coach that sold him from where was it? Porto, Benfica,
Well,
or
I
wherever.
mean, the thing is, when it comes to transfer, sometimes you as a manager has no control based on the structure. If a big offer come in, you have no choice but to sell. So I think
True.
that was the case with Fernandez. I mean, it's not a case where the club wanted him out. I just think the offer was too good to turn down, and the player himself wanted a bigger club to move to as well. So I think that's a completely different situation. In this case, I think Fernandez should be an asset under Amarin going forward. Garnacho, I'm not sure Garnacho is good enough. In my opinion of Garnacho somewhat different. I mean, we can see thus far he's not one of the key players as it relates to starting position under Amarin as of late. Ahmad
Perhaps, but
seemed to be the man which
he
has somewhat cemented himself in that team. Ahmad, I would say, look like a man who could potentially go forward, but I don't really even see Ahmad as a clear-cut starter either. I think Ahmad would be a good squad type player, but not your regular starter to play the majority of the season as a first 11.
you have to give the young players a chance, right? Just like you said with Fernandez being the best player for United, correct since he's been there. I do believe he can still be an asset, and if Amarin thinks they can still get the most out of him, fine. I think they should cash in now while they can get the money and then just rebuild. But it's fine. They can keep him. Garnacho has been doing well for the last couple of years. He's not a player who has been disruptive or full of himself or anything like that. So far, he has had a slow start under Amarin, but that doesn't mean that he does not deserve a chance versus players who have been there 4, 5, 6, 10 plus
Well,
years.
I think that's what Amarin is doing currently. I think he is giving every player their opportunity to shine, so to speak. And I think come January, come the summer, he'll be taking stock of the performances and getting a better view of the players, can decide at that point who he feels has enough quality to go forward and who probably become transfer listed. So I think at this point in time, he's giving everyone a run. Everyone seemed to have started with a clean slate, and he's giving everyone a run out to see their quality. Even players such as Johnny Evans and Maguire are seeing game time under Amarin. So it's
But
just clear
they
to
were
see
also
that he's
seeing
giving everybody a look
they
in.
were seeing game time under Ten Hag.
Well, I mean, this is a new manager. He needs to see these players up front, and that is one thing the players will like. The players will like the fact that they have a clean slate and they're able to showcase what they have to a new manager. And then obviously, if they're good enough, the manager will keep them. If they're not good enough, then they get shipped out. But a lot of these players are not good enough to take Manchester United back into a top four or even challenge for the title. So the point where United is challenging for the title, many of these players definitely won't be around because, just look at the results. I mean, Bournemouth is a team, in a way, is a team personally that I rate. I think they're heavily underrated. They fly under the radar, but they're playing some quality football. And that 3-0 battering of United just proves that this United team is just not up to scratch. They're not up to standard at this point in time. And credit has to be given to Bournemouth. I don't want all the focus to be on the failures of United, but credit has to be given to Bournemouth to go to Old Trafford and really get this excellent result. Let's not
And
forget, Christoph, Bournemouth have beaten Arsenal and Bournemouth has also beaten Man City in the league this season as well. So it just goes to show that this Bournemouth team is no pushover. They are no walkover. They cannot be taken lightly, and they have players which are stepping up, especially in these big games and really producing the goods. What says you?
Um, I don't have things there. Credit to Bournemouth, yes, but at the moment we can't use Manchester City as a measure of anything.
No, but they beat
Because
Arsenal as well. Can we use beating Arsenal as a good
we
measure?
yeah we can use that as a measure, but we can't
Right.
use
So
beating
they,
Man
they
City as a measure of
well,
anything.
they beat Arsenal and they beat Man City as well, and now they've beaten United. So This
And
is a team which is
we
producing.
they are
It's no
producing
fluke. Them beating United is no fluke.
we it's not a fluke. We can't, but we can't use that as anything. You are making it seem as
But
if
you have to
Manchester.
beat what is placed in front of you, Christoph.
That's fine, but
These
you're
are the
making
teams
it
that Bournemouth are coming up across, and they
you're
are
making
beating
it
them.
seem what you're doing is you're making it seem as if Manchester United is bigger than Bournemouth and is expected to beat
Well,
them.
they are a bigger
Man,
team than Bournemouth,
only in name,
fan base wise,
only in name,
etc. Maybe they are
only in
not
name.
playing better quality
Manchester
football,
United is in the bottom half of the table. Bournemouth is on the edge of the top four. So it's
which
a
is
bit.
right. Which is right. I mean, no, I'm saying from a fan base point of view and
Mm,
from a name basis, obviously, Manchester United is a much bigger name than Bournemouth. But in terms of the football, which is where it really matters, Bournemouth is
Bournemouth
playing
is
quality
better.
football and is punching above Manchester United at the moment. So, as I said, for me, this defeat did not come as any surprise. I called it in the preview show, and so said, so done. And pretty much Amarin has to go back to the drawing board. And as I said, this new coach Bones seemed to have worn off pretty quickly. But my guess, Christoph, is that the new coach Bones was split between Ruud van Nistelrooy and Amarin. So Ruud van Nistelrooy got maybe about 3 games, and then Amarin got about three. So
Well,
it quickly faded.
it looks like Ruud van Nistelrooy used up all of his new coach bounce at United because he seems to be failing down in Leicester as well.
Yes, I mean,
Because
what
Wolves, a
one can
team
say.
who has struggled all season, beating Leicester 3-0. So
But again, in the previous show, I called this one again, Christoph. I gave Wolves the last ounce of confidence I had in them. And of course, they are under new management as well. So it's really two new coaching managers going head to head. And as I mentioned, to me, Wolves has better quality players than a Leicester, Christoph. And as we have been saying throughout this season, Wolves seem to play well, but just not getting the results for whatever reason. I'm not sure.
well,
Maybe it's team
potential,
selection, maybe it's tactics. I'm not
but
sure, but definitely their position in the league to me does not reflect the quality in the team. I think they just need a manager to get the right personnel and right system out there. And I am sure that Wolves, you'll see an improvement in Wolves season going forward. So I'm expecting that. I'm not saying they're going to be blowing anyone away, but I think this is too good a team to be relegated. I think the teams that will be relegated are the teams that were promoted from the championship. So I'm looking at Southampton, Ipswich, and
and
Leicester.
Leicester.
I'm looking at those three teams to go back down. I just feel Wolves with the experience of playing in the Premier League, a number of experienced Premier League players as well, and just the quality of the team. When you look at players like Cunha, for example, he's a quality winger, a player that could be burgeoning and starting in a number of top four teams. So, you have a goal scorer right there. And then, of course, defensively, you still have pieces, people who can come in and really plug a gap, plug a hole throughout the season. So I just think they needed maybe a fresh voice in the locker room, a better system which may suit the strength of the players. And then, of course, just that team work, that team energy as playing as a unit. So I'm expecting Wolves to see a few positive results going forward, in all honesty. And it should shoot them up the table. But time is the master. Time will definitely tell. But Arsenal, Christoph, let's turn attention to Arsenal. What says you about the Arsenal result over Crystal Palace? 5-1 was the result in that game, but significantly, we saw Saka going off injured. Is this the end of the Arsenal title push, Christoph, with this injury to Saka?
Hard to say. I mean, my
Well,
statement.
before you even answer, for me, Arsenal is already out of the title race for me,
Oh, okay.
even without this injury to Saka. But to me, this injury is just gonna be like an Odegaard type injury where we're not gonna see a dip in Arsenal because there's no ready-made replacement for Saka out there on the right wing.
I think probably what you'd see happening is that Martinelli will be switched to the right and then Trossard will start on the left, is what I think we will see until Saka is fit again because he's expected to be out until the beginning of February, until after that Manchester City game. But we'll have to see. It's a big blow to Arsenal and very very big blow to Arsenal, especially given all the injuries that Arsenal picked up this season. I think Arsenal have the either the third or second most injuries so far this season. And then, an injury to your best player, best attacking player anyway, is going to be a big blow for them. Uh, the chopping and changing of the defense hasn't helped.
Well, I'm not sure. Has there been chopping and changing? Hasn't it been the same centre back pairing all season? Maybe a game or two
There's
there,
been a
but
lot of chopping and changing in there because of injuries,
no, but over the last couple
cards.
of game weeks, I haven't seen any chopping and changing. It has been Timber at right back ever since Ben White went
Oh,
down
so you
injured.
you you haven't been watching. You haven't been seeing Partey in right back and centre back and all over the
No, but
place. So
that's not due to injuries. That's due to team selection by
no,
Arteta.
it's due to injuries. Partey would never end up in the defense if all the defenders were fit.
Yeah, but Arsenal have left backs available. But
But
Arteta chose
what
to
the
play a midfielder there. Isn't
Partey
Tyranny isn't Tyranny part of the team?
Tierney played in midweek.
It's Zinchenko. So that's what I'm saying.
Zinchenko was injured.
It's not due to the fact that Arteta cannot find players. Players are there. It's Arteta choosing to use midfielders as defenders.
It is obvious you haven't been keeping up with the injuries. The players are
So,
injured. The players are injured. They
is
have been
Tyranny
injured.
injured?
Tierney is fit again. He played
Okay.
midweek.
So why Tyranny isn't playing left back?
He played midweek. Uh,
I'm not buying that argument. For me, Arteta just don't rate the player.
Tierney played midweek against Crystal Palace in the EFL.
Okay, so he is the only player who played midweek that played on the weekend.
He didn't play on the weekend.
No, I'm
Skelly played on the
saying
weekend.
Tyranny is the only player who played midweek who did not play on the weekend then, is the
Yeah,
your argument.
right,
But a number of players who started on the weekend played midweek as well. Jesus played midweek.
right.
So why
What
Tyranny
about
couldn't play midweek as is customary when you're playing Champions League and play also on the weekend?
Tierney played midweek because Arteta was rotating the squad for the EFL.
And I'm saying a number of Arsenal players played midweek as is customary when you're
Right.
playing Champions League and also play on the weekend. So you, so I'm saying
I
why
don't know what is the argument. Yeah,
the argument is Arteta just doesn't rate Tyranny
but
and he prefers to play a midfielder at his expense. It's simple as that.
Tierney is the one who played left back, and then Martin Skelly played on the weekend. I don't understand.
Right. So that's
What
what
is
I'm
the
saying.
argument?
No, I'm saying to you that it's not a case where Arsenal is lacking in players, as you're saying, injuries. That's not the case. It's Arteta and his team selection. So players are available. Maybe the first choice players are not available if you had a full squad, but it's not as if you need to be putting midfielders because you lack bodies in defense, is what I'm saying. But he chose to put Partey there throughout the season as opposed to an out and out defender.
Partey hasn't played at left back. Partey has played at right back and has played at centre back.
Regardless of where he's playing, that cannot be good for team morale if you see a midfielder playing as a defender and you're there as a defender. How would you feel as a defender in a squad like that when your position is being taken over by a midfielder? That to me just goes to show a lack of trust from the manager. It,
Possibly.
yeah, and then of course that then further causes a disruption in your midfield because now you would have to bring in another player to play alongside the Odegaard or a Declan Rice. So you know maybe play Kai Havertz there, as was the case on the weekend. And so it's down to team selection. And that's probably part of the reason Arsenal has somewhat fallen off this season, where, as you said, a lot of chopping and changing
because of injury.
And it's not as if you're not making changes where it's like for like. So you have three right back. Let's for example say you have three right backs in your squad, and your first choice right back gets injured. Naturally, it should be your second choice right back. But instead, you're playing a midfielder there. That cannot be good for team morale, is all I'm saying. And I'm sure the players are seeing these things and are wondering, what do I need to do to get into this team when your natural position is being taken over by a midfielder? So, I mean, these are the choices that managers get to make, but I'm not buying it. For me, Arsenal is outside the race, regardless of the Saka injury. And to me, the Saka injury will only aid in further keeping them down. It's gonna be hard to replace the offensive qualities which Saka really bring to that team, and of course the dependence on corners from Arsenal as well. Saka was one of those key corner takers, Christoph. Who that's how he picks up a lot of his assists from corners. And with his delivery now out of the question for at least two months or a month and a half, depending. Ah, interesting times ahead for Arsenal. What can we say about Chelsea, Christoph? I mean, time is quickly running out, but what's the word on Chelsea? Drawing nil-nil with Everton. I thought it was another brilliant Everton masterclass in defending, and Chelsea really failed to unlock that defense.
It could also just be a case where we're seeing Chelsea is leveling out and Chelsea potentially was overperforming.
I'm not necessarily in agreement with that, to
Oh,
be honest.
no, I'm not
I would
saying that
rather
is.
credit Everton as
I'm not
opposed to
saying. Oh, but those things don't have to be mutually exclusive. It could be both of them at once.
Well, from that game, I would say it was another excellent defensive performance from
Yeah,
Everton.
definitely an excellent performance from
And
Everton, but
also, it was a game Everton could have potentially pinched as well, to be honest, based on the chances created. The Chelsea keeper Sanchez had to come up with a number of brilliant saves to really keep Everton at bay, in all honesty. Say, likewise, on the opposite end, Pickford did pull off a number of good saves to keep the game at nil-all, but Everton would have been happy with a point, to be honest. And it's another excellent masterclass, drawing nil-nil with Arsenal and then drawing nil-nil with red hot Chelsea. Liverpool has to have some concern with that Merseyside derby being scheduled. That is no cakewalk. And even though you have a game in hand, you can't count that as 3 points because on the back of these performances from Everton, they should be extra motivated for that derby. So it's not going to be a cakewalk for Liverpool. Those 3 points are by no chance guaranteed.
those 3 points are unguaranteed. But I think for Liverpool, what would be fortunate for them is if the EPL decides to rearrange that fixture to later down in the season. Everton potentially cooling off their defensive hot
Well,
streak.
I'm hearing it's arranged for the somewhere maybe the latter part of February is what I'm hearing currently.
I haven't heard as yet, but I mean, even that could be enough for Everton to cool off the defensive hot streak that they're in right now. So potentially beneficial. If Liverpool were to play them now, then they might drop points.
Definitely. The future is one of those unknown entities, and as you say, Everton could possibly cool off, but who to tell? They say farm goes through the window when you play derby matches, so it's hard to say. It could even be of more significance later on down in the year, and maybe the pressure is on as well. Maybe at that point Liverpool need those points to keep to keep top of the league, for example. So difficult to say. I mean, at any point when these games come, they are gonna be difficult games, especially as the season begins to tighten up and the games become less and less. So for sure, but I would give credit to Everton as opposed to Chelsea not performing, because I think Chelsea did play well or played well enough not to lose and well enough where they could have won the game also. But again, just good defending, good goalkeeping at times. Pickford, of course, very questionable at times, also making some very brash decision. Especially there was one incident in that game which I thought potentially should have been a penalty for Chelsea when Pickford came flying out of the goal to close down a shot, and that's a questionable decision. It could have gone differently on a different day, but it is what it is. That one ending 0-0, and the league has Liverpool at the top of the table come Christmas, and the next time these teams will be in action, Christoph, will be on Boxing Day. But any final thoughts from you, Christoph, as we wrap up? Pretty much it's one more game before the turn of the year.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts as it relates to this week's action?
Interesting week of football. We continue to see the Manchester club slide. Chelsea halted, potentially only temporary. Liverpool march on, and we've seen the, I guess what I'll call it is we're seeing Tottenham falling off earlier than expected. Um, we'll see
Uh,
if they pick themselves up in the new year. But as usual, when it comes to probably high stakes games, they tend to capitulate in those games. We saw it last season against, Manchester City. We saw Son getting open goals and missing. So it's not a game that I had expected Spurs to win anyway.
Yeah, speaking of Son, his son has definitely fallen off, Christoph, to be honest. It's not something we see the big media houses speaking of, but in my opinion, Son is definitely underperforming this season in general. So that is definitely something to keep an eye on. At one point in time, he was Tottenham's best player, but that title seemed to have been taken over by Madison, and I would even put Kulusevski ahead of Son at this point in time. Maybe that armband is wearing on him, and maybe that armband need to go to someone else where who can, lead that team forward. See, Son seemed to be going down under the pressure or under the weight of that armband. So something to definitely keep in mind. But viewers and subscribers, thank you again for tuning in to us here on Beating the Press podcast. Continue to show us some support by, of course, sharing, liking, and if you haven't subscribed as yet, hit that subscription bell. We're looking to grow, and that's one way for us to grow by upping the number of subscribers we have. But we'll be back to look at the fixtures coming up on Boxing Day. And of course, some festive period continues where the games will be coming thick and fast. It will be a spread of games from Boxing Day going right into the new year. So that is definitely a feast that the EPL will be serving up for us. But until next time, this is Rafa signing off.